So good morning, afternoon, and evening to all of our guests today. Thank you for joining our webinar, From Touchtone to Conversational IVR. My name is Stephanie Quinn, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at NuEcho, and I'm joined by Ms. Linda Thibault, who's our practice leader for conversational innovation. This webinar should last about 30 to 40 minutes, just to make sure that we respect everybody's time. If there are questions throughout the webinar, please don't hesitate to type those into the chat. We will be sure to respond to everyone right away after the webinar. We didn't want it to run too long, so we will send out personalized emails that respond to everyone's questions as we go along. So with that, let's jump right into it.
Thank you, Stephanie. So I'm Linda Thibault. Just to give you a little bit of information about my background, so I've been in this business for over 20 years now. I held different positions and was able to acquire experience in different areas, namely speech recognition, natural language processing, text-to-speech, voice user interface, and also some contact center platforms, especially Genesis. So bird's eye view of what we're going to present today. So first, I will describe to you what the vision is of a really good customer experience in an IVR, and then I'll compare that to what the reality is most of the time. Then we'll speak about why your IVR is important, and then I will present a step-by-step approach that NuEcho proposes in order to get you from a DTMF IVR to a real conversational experience. So we have a little poll to start off today. So Stephanie.
Okay, so we're going to start off here. We wanted to get to know the audience a little bit better. So we wanted to do a quick poll on what type of IVR do you have? So we'll just launch the poll. And I'll give you guys a chance to start responding. We'll just give you a little bit of time. I'll give you a big 15 seconds. Everyone gets their votes in. Okay, so we'll close it up in about 3 seconds. And 1, 2, 3, get your votes in. We'll close it up. So let's share some of the results.
All right, so as we see, most of you, close to 3/3 of you still have a touchtone only IVR with a 24% using speech, I'm assuming in a directed dialogue fashion, and only 14% have made the transition to a fully conversational IVR. So we see that there is still a lot of opportunity to bring your customer experience to another level. So moving on to the next slide. So what's that vision? So you have this customer, how should it be? So the customer calls the IVR, and right off the bat, the IVR recognizes the user and knows who they are. The IVR can then fetch the profile if the user is already a customer, and it knows what the customer has done, what products or services they have, what they did before, where they come from, what transactions they usually do. So it has all the information about this customer, and it's able to offer a prediction or the very best option that corresponds to that customer and its context at that moment. So that's really the ideal customer experience in an IVR that you can have. And in addition to that, the customer is able to tell their purpose of call if they need to do so, and the IVR will understand and get them to the right person in the first try, hopefully. So let's see what the reality is for many organizations. It's quite different. So what happens? Very often the customer calls and then they fall into a lot of touch tone options and menus. And then they hear some terminology that they're not familiar with. They even hear options that don't really match why they're calling. So in this case, that customer, she calls and she hears options about her home equity line of credit. She's a student and she lives at her parents', so why would she need an option about that? So then she, out of desperation, she presses 0, and then what happens to her when she presses 0, she gets in the waiting loop. So once she's in the waiting loop, she hears, your call is important to us. And then she waits. She'd like to get an offer to be called back, but it's not available. So she waits and she waits, and hopefully after a few seconds, she finally reaches someone. But darn it, it's not the right agent. So she's transferred back in the queue and hears that some more until she finally reaches the right agent. That's a little bit painful. And then at some point, she might get really tired and just hang up. And then you will see her abandonment rates go up. What else can happen? Well, she can be transferred once, but she can also be transferred other times if the second agent is still not the right one. Some IVRs that use speech recognition, it's not often tuned properly. So you can get messages like, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, I didn't get that, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. That can also be quite irritating to callers. Messages. Some messages are really long and not very useful and sometimes just downright insulting. So for example, please listen carefully as our options have changed. Yeah, they've changed like 3 years ago. So you let the message there thinking, or forgetting about it. But people hear that and it's not very useful. Things like, to ensure that we provide good service, please pay attention and choose one of the following options. People know that they need to choose options. And the undertext is that if you don't pay attention, well, it's your fault if we don't give you a proper service. One that I really like is, for yes, say yes. For no, say no. Or the infamous press or say 1. So these are all things that are really not so great. And then you think, we can go to the next slide, then you think, well, do people really call? You know, people chat, they self-serve, they use their mobile, they use chatbots, they do all these things, but do they still call? Do I need to bother about my IVR? Well, yes, they do. They still call. And they call when they fail, oftentimes, at self-service. They call when they need help. They call when they have a complex problem to solve and need to speak to someone. And they call if their situation is urgent. So when they need to call, how do you welcome them in your voice channel? It is clear, and you need to remember that customers, they will leave an organization due to poor IVR experiences. So we have another poll.
Okay, so we're going to launch another one, guys. When was the last time you revisited your IVR? Okay, so now let's not be shy here because a lot of you can't really track who's answering what. So please take the time to respond, whether it's within the past year, 2 to 5 years ago, more than 5 years ago, or oh my God, I've never done that. And we'll look at some of the poll results in another 10 seconds. Okay, everybody, vote, 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 vote. I'm going to close it. All right, we're closed. So let's share some of the results.
Okay, well, that's good news in a way. So most of you, close to 70%, have done some revisions over the past year. So this is pretty nice. 2 to 5 years, that would probably require some revisiting. And more than 5 years ago, in this case, you could probably use a little audit or a little review of your IVR. So now we know that you cannot leave your IVR behind and not do anything about it. So what do we do? What do we suggest? So at NuEcho, we propose a step-by-step approach, because taking your current DTMF IVR and bringing it to a fully conversational IVR, it's a big endeavor to tackle. It can be a little bit scary, and it's not something that you can do in 2 months, for example. But you can do things like in an iterative way that will gradually get you there, and that can bring you some improvements along the way. So what steps do we propose? So first of all, that relates to the question that we just asked. We suggest to start with an IVR audit. So why would you need to consider an audit? How would it benefit your company? Well, as we mentioned earlier, it can mean that you have not reviewed your IVR for quite a bit of time. It was updated. It was not updated, since a few months or a few years. Your business needs can change, and that can mean changes in your IVR as well. You add new products, new services. Sometimes you retire some products or services. There are market changes that can mean you have new departments. And also, one of the factors that have a big impact over IVRs are all the mergers and acquisitions, where you put all these lines of business under the same IVR umbrella, and that can generate like huge menus that are really hard to traverse. So when we do an IVR, what do we look at? So first of all, we review all your menu structure, asking ourselves the question, and we put ourselves in the shoes of the customer. Can I find my way in that menu? The terminology. Does the system speak my language? Are there terms that don't mean anything to me? We go over all the prompts and messages, the instructions. Are they too long? Are there any useless messages? Are there instructions that are not clear? We review all of that. We do a round of direct observation. What does it mean? So we call the IVRs and we listen to them. Sometimes what we find is that companies will record new messages, new menus at different points in time, and even though they use professional voice talent, sometimes it's just recorded at different times and it almost sounds like a different person. There are differences in volumes and speed and things like that, which doesn't give a very good sound portrait of your IVR, if you will. You can also do usability testing. That means recruiting real customers and give them tasks to perform in your IVR to observe how they do them and gather their feedback. If you do have speech recognition, well, obviously, speech recognition tuning is also a good thing to do once in a while, especially if you have monitored your system and you see that there are issues. I'm not going to go into details about speech recognition tuning, but this is a service that NuEcho offers as well. So all these activities will help you uncover, hopefully, most of the issues that irritate your clients, keeping them from hanging up and leaving. Along the way, you can implement minor changes and some quick wins, and these can have a big impact on client experience, and they don't necessarily cost a fortune to put in place. So the next step is examining your statistics and your routing. So what can you find out by looking at that? First of all, look at call volume distribution. So these can reveal very important things. First of all, you can see if there are problems in your menus, if there are branches or options that are really not well used, and also you can find out very low traffic options that can help you maybe merge options or reorganize your menu according to call volume distribution to put in front of your menus the most popular options. If you have statistics about your transfer rate, that can be an indication. If you have high transfer rates, it can indicate some misrouting issues. If you have high abandonment rate and long waiting times, that can also be a clue to some problems. If your statistics tell you how many clients call over a short period of time, that obviously can tell you, it can give you clues that there might be some problems. And for last but not least, the zero out rates. If you find that you have very high zero out rates at different points in your IVR, well, that's a good indication that customers don't want to stay in there. So it tells you a lot about how your IVR is not working properly. So solutions to these issues can increase your efficiency and improve your customer experience, and you don't have to do a complete IVR overhaul at that point. Next step, one group of people that are often forgotten in these exercises are the agents and the supervisors. So they're the ones who talk to your customers all day long. So they know a lot, and it's really worth taking some time and talking with them. So what can they give you information about? Well, they know why clients really call, and when the customers get to them, well, they typically know what they did before, what they tried, if they failed using self-service, and they might, in many cases, tell the agent why they failed, what they've done. They can tell them that the menu was too complicated. They can complain about the waiting time. They typically, if they're not happy, they will tell the agent. Any irritants that they have, you can be sure that they will tell the agent, and then clients will tell the agent why and if and where they struggled prior to talking to them. So it's a very important step that should not be skipped. All right. Next up is data collection. So this is really the very first step towards putting together a conversational IVR. So what happens in many enterprises is that the menus are created with the enterprise organization or the call center organization in mind. So menus correspond to departments and options correspond to skills and things like that. And the callers have to figure out what option matches their needs. So they can't tell where they're calling. They need to sort of guess. They listen to what's offered to them. And most of the time they'll pick something. Hopefully it will correspond to what they need, but many times it doesn't. So the first step to a conversational experience is to know how people express themselves and what they say and how they ask for things. And to do that is to collect caller data. And if you want to put together a customer-centric IVR that uses natural language, you need a lot of data. So to collect that data, there are several different methods. Just a few examples. So you can redirect a portion of your IVR calls to a small application that will ask callers what their purpose of call is and record them while dedicated agents listen, and they can triage and route the call. So that's one method. What you can also do is have the agents send the callers to a recording application after they're done discussing with the customer. Only the callers who want to do that, obviously. That method, it's probably not the first that we would recommend, because most of the time when they're done, callers, they just want to hang up and go do anything else. So that's not my first choice. What you can also do is instrument a small data collection IVR in the waiting loop and collect recordings while the caller is on hold. They're not doing anything else anyway. So it's not too intrusive, and you can just ask them to express the reason of their call in their own words. And if you want, what's very useful as well is just take that recording and play it to the agent as a whisper. So the agent will already have some context when the customer gets to them. So this data collection will have many advantages. So it will help you really know what your customers are calling about, in which proportion, and how they express themselves. And with that data, you can start exploring and developing an NLU, natural language-based conversational solution. So analyzing this data throughout the analysis, it will allow a progressive transition to a conversational NLU-enabled IVR. And in the meantime, you can streamline portions of your current IVR based on what you will be learning from your customers along the way. So next step. Personalization. So if you remember in that ideal IVR experience that I mentioned at the very beginning, the caller called and the IVR recognized them. So that's great. In reality, currently what happens many times is that in the IVR, you're requested to identify, and sometimes you can authenticate yourself, but most of the time you just enter maybe your card, your caller ID, some type of customer code, and then when you get to the agent, they will confirm your identity. Oftentimes that information is not even used, and oftentimes as well, the options that are presented to the caller are not leveraged and do not consider context. So where do we start to get to personalization? So the caller ID is available to the IVR in most cases. So unless you have a masked phone number, the IVR has access to this information. So it knows where the call comes from. Obviously, if you call your organization from your business and from your extension, it's not going to be very useful. But if you call from your personal phone numbers, which is the case for most people, I mean, most callers nowadays, they use their personal mobile phone for all communications. So that's a very precious information. This number can be the key to knowing who's calling, and not only that, if you instrument your system properly, you can have access to the caller profile using just this information. If you need to authenticate them, that's another conversation. But at least if you can identify who they are, you can already fetch some information and offer them options that are more relevant to their situation and not just something that's generic and vanilla and for everybody. So this is a solution that can be interesting if you do not have access to a fully developed CRM. You can start at least with logging the phone number. And finally, so the customer journey.
So hold on, before we do that,
I
think we're going to do another poll. So how many of you on the line right now have started mapping or using your client journeys in order to achieve a fully omni-channel experience? So you can take the time, either yes you have or no you haven't, or what are you even talking about? Just before Linda jumps into it, because we will be covering on the next slide that idea of customer journey. It is a popular topic out there. It's been going on probably for about the past 2 years. But it's still surprising today. People are still trying to wrap their heads around what that entails for their organizations, which journeys they should start with to create the most value. So I'm just going to close it up and we'll look at some of those results.
All right, so almost 60% of you have actually have a conversational, an omni-channel solution, which is considering it. Yeah, which is amazing. This is great. And for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, so Stephanie explained it a little bit, but an omni-channel solution is a solution which integrates all the channels and keeps the context from one interaction to another. So if a customer does something in the chat, for example, well, this information is logged in, and the next time if they call right after, well, the solution is going to know who they are and what they did just before. If they try doing something in a self-service and they fail, well, that information will be logged as well. So there's always the context is carried from one channel to another, providing a really a global experience, whatever the channel you're using to contact your organization. So the transition from one another is seamless. That's the goal and the main objective. To do that, this is an activity that can take quite some effort to put together. So first of all, you need to have a solution that logs and tracks everything that the customer is doing in every channel for all interactions. Obviously, when you think about that, you also need to decide how long do I keep that information? How long is it relevant? How much of it do I log? So there's a lot of thinking that goes into this. This goes hand in hand with personalization, because once I know who's calling, I need to know what they've done before, and this is where the omni-channel solution comes into play. You need to track customer activities across channels. That's a prerequisite to put together an omni-channel solution. As I mentioned, there's significant effort and investment, and this is more of a long-term activity, but there are clear benefits to servicing clients, obviously majorly improve customer experience, and at the same time improve customer loyalty. So the ultimate goal of offering a personalized, proactive, omni-channel experience to your customer can be reached through an iterative, step-by-step approach that will provide incremental benefits as you move forward. So if you follow all these steps that we've been describing, at each step you can implement some changes iteratively, incrementally, and at each step you're going to be able to provide your customer with some benefits and some improvements.
For sure. By the time we get here, this is when you're really able to wow, right? And really impress them. And even today, a lot of companies aren't achieving this yet, so it can even be a company differentiator.
Exactly.
So that's going to tie up our webinar for today. I wanted to give just a quick minute to who NuEcho is. We do have some people who registered who are prospects and might not be familiar with who NuEcho is. So don't drop off yet. It's not going to be a long company overview. So NuEcho, we're CX solution providers, and what we do is we pride ourselves in bridging the gap between people and technology. There are constantly new technologies out there, and it can get confusing for enterprise and IT professionals alike. So we come in there as those IT professionals to help you figure everything out. And how we plan on doing that is really through a focus on that conversational innovation through either voice or text conversations that enterprise have with their clients. In the past, where we've gained our experience has been definitely in our speech recognition and natural language, as well as conversational UI UX and everything IVR. So we have Linda and the team who have been working with companies for years now on this as it's evolved over time. We definitely have a Genesis Pure Engage practice. Some of you on the line, you've got Genesis. We are known as the Genesis people in Canada and the US. And what makes us a little different than some of those other solution providers is really the fact that we have a strong software engineering background, and we really are problem solvers. So we go in, we sit with our clients, understand their needs, and come up with innovative ways to solve those needs and help them differentiate themselves in those markets with those clients. And finally, what can you expect from today's webinar? I will send you guys off a copy of the recording. So if anyone on your team wasn't able to make it, or if you'd like to share it with anyone within your organization, we will send you off the recording. And we'll also send you some information with regards to our IVR optimization audit. In case anyone would like to work with Linda and her team, we'd be happy to sit down with you and even brainstorm ideas on how we can help take your IVR to the next level. So thank you everyone for being on today. And again, if you have any questions, you can either type it right in that chat box, or feel free to respond to those emails that I send you probably tomorrow. Thank you so much for being on, everyone.
Thank you.